Chapter 4. The Unseen Hero. The air inside Stark Tower still hummed with tension. Ethan drifted silently along the edge of the main corridor, watching as the aftermath of the Battle of New York continued to ripple throughout the building. His new form, a ghost-like essence invisible to the eye, weightless yet grounded in presence, floated with a kind of grace that surprised even him. Every step he would have taken before was now replaced with intentionless movement, like a feather drifting through a breeze. He had no heartbeat, no breath, but his mind was alive, awake, buzzing with possibilities. From the floor above, Tony Stark's voice echoed down, arguing with someone, likely Maria Hill or Bruce Banner, something about damage control, Chitauri remnants, and security lockdowns. Ethan didn't listen. Instead, his attention was on a digital monitor flickering near a lab door. It wasn't just any lab. It was Tony's private R&D chamber, and more importantly, it was the first time the system had spoken since the battle ended. System notification, access level, restricted bypassed. New skill acquired. Electrosense. You can now sense and interface with digital signals, electronics, and electrical fields. Ethan hovered, eyes widening, or they would have if he had eyes anymore. Instead, it was a sensation, a pulse of data, a vibration of signals, a language he could now feel. He reached toward the door. No fingers, just will. The panel sparked slightly. The security lock gave a soft beep, and the door hissed open. Inside was a lab filled with tech decades ahead of anything Ethan had ever seen on Earth. He saw the glowing arc reactor cores, the prototype Iron Man gauntlets, and even a familiar AI interface scanning the room. JARVIS. Unauthorized access detected. Yeah, I get that a lot, Ethan muttered, floating inward. JARVIS seemed to pause. Entity lacks a thermal or physical signature. Anomaly recorded. Notifying Mr. Stark. Not yet, Ethan said instinctively. Suddenly the monitor to the side flickered. His mind pulsed. System upgrade unlocked, ghost touch. Ability to interact with digital systems and low-level tech without physical presence. Progress, 12%. Ethan drifted toward one of the displays. His awareness clicked into the feed. Jarvis was watching him, confused. The AI tried to scan again. This time, Ethan pushed back. A surge of interference. Let's not tell Stark just yet. The cameras blinked. JARVIS recalibrated. Then, silence. Later. That night, Natasha Romanoff sat in the medbay, her shoulder wrapped in gauze. The battle with the Chitauri had left her bruised but intact. She stared at the wall until the light beside her bed flickered twice. She blinked. Jarvis? She asked. Silence. The light flickered again, but Ethan wasn't there to spook her. He was learning. Floating above the rooftop of Stark Tower, he stared down at the streets of Manhattan. The fires were out. Rubble lined the streets. People tried to move on. News helicopters buzzed in the distance. He didn't feel like a god. He didn't feel like a ghost either. He felt like something becoming, and the system wasn't done. System, power evolution in progress. New passive trait detected, dimensional awareness. He staggered midair. What? The skyline shimmered faintly. In that instant, Ethan felt it, like a spider sensing a web tremble across dimensions. He wasn't just seeing Manhattan anymore. He was seeing what was between it. Other timelines, other possibilities. A flash of a reality where Ultron won. A blur of another where the Avengers never assembled. A shadow of a multiverse breaking. Then it vanished. He gasped, not out of pain, just the shock of seeing something not meant to be seen. Okay, Ethan muttered. Now I'm freaking out. But even as he drifted downward, toward the glowing top floors of the tower, he knew this wasn't random. Something was accelerating him. And it wasn't just the system. Something bigger had noticed him. And whatever it was watching back. End of Chapter 4. Chapters 5 and 6 coming next. Chapter 5. Power Beyond the Flesh. The sanctum sanctorum hummed with a subtle, arcane energy. Ethan floated within the main chamber like a breath held in time. Ancient tomes lined the shelves, and relics shimmered faintly behind protective runes. Doctor Strange stood before him, robes draped like shadow and fire, eyeing Ethan as if he were a puzzle the universe had scrambled intentionally. "You're not just a ghost," Strange said, narrowing his gaze. "You're something more, something layered." Ethan didn't reply, not because he didn't want to, but because he was overwhelmed. After the events of Stark Tower, after meeting Tony, after watching his own body in a hospital bed, he was grappling with the gravity of it all. Was he dead, alive, or something in between? Strange gestured to a magical circle that had materialized beneath Ethan. The lines pulsed blue, then purple. "You've been stitched to this reality unnaturally. There's a tether connecting you to the multiverse. It's unstable, but fascinating." "So what am I?" Ethan asked. His voice was more stable now, like he was reclaiming control over it. Strange stepped closer, the eye of Agamotto resting against his chest like a heartbeat of its own. "You're an echo of a soul not born here, a fragment of a different existence. You remember things you shouldn't. You know things no one taught you." Ethan nodded slowly. "I know your fate. I know what happens in Infinity War. I know about Thanos, the snap, everything." Doctor Strange's expression didn't change. "And yet your presence here is disrupting the threads of fate. Just by existing, you've already changed the story." Ethan looked at his translucent hands. "I didn't ask for this." "No one ever does," Strange said, "but that doesn't mean we're exempt from playing our part." Later that night, hidden chamber beneath the sanctum. Strange led Ethan into a deeper vault, a chamber that hummed with forgotten power. Arcane glyphs floated midair, spinning slowly like gears of the universe. "I want to help you," Strange said, "but you need to understand something. If you truly want to interact with this world, to fight, to change it, you must evolve." Strange raised a hand and conjured a crystalline shard that hovered in midair. "This is a ghost core, a relic from a forgotten realm. It grants ghost entities the ability to manipulate energy beyond the veil, what some call the ghost arsenal." Ethan instinctively reached out. The shard pulsed, then fused into his chest with a burst of white flame. Pain shot through him, but it wasn't physical pain. It was like 1,000 doors opening inside his mind. System notification. Ghost arsenal unlocked. Phantom blades. Create spectral weapons. Shadow anchor. Lock enemies in place using ghost chains. Phase shift plus. Pass through barriers and temporarily freeze time around you. Ethan gasped. He could feel power threading through him like electricity. Strange nodded. "You'll need this. What's coming next will test your very soul." Days later, streets of New York. Ethan had returned to the city, no longer just watching from the shadows. He was starting to interact. When a shield convoy was attacked by rogue AI agents, he acted. Phantom blades slashed tires and weapons. Shadow anchor trapped fleeing enemies. Phase shift plus allowed him to freeze moments in time and save civilians mid-explosion. People started to talk. They called him the Silent Wraith. Nick Fury noticed. Tony Stark noticed. The Avengers started pulling up surveillance trying to identify the figure. But none could explain how this ghost-like entity moved, or why cameras glitched when he passed. Midnight. Ethan's hideout, abandoned clock tower. Ethan sat alone. The city lights flickered below. The wind passed through him gently. He spoke aloud, almost to himself. "Is this really happening? Am I really becoming something else?" System notification. New power available. Soul construct. You may now create semi-physical forms from emotional memories. "What does that mean?" he whispered. From his thoughts, the image of his mom appeared beside him. A translucent version, peaceful, smiling. Not a ghost, not a hallucination. A memory given shape. He reached out. His hand passed through hers, but he smiled. "This changes everything." Elsewhere, Kamartaj. Dr. Strange stood with Wong. The ghost has power now, Wong said. Strange nodded grimly. More than we ever expected. And something's watching him. Something old. Not from this universe. Wong raised an eyebrow. Should we intervene? Strange closed his eyes. We may have no choice. The multiverse has noticed Ethan, and it's not pleased. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. Shadow of the Multiverse Location. Sanctum Sanctorum, Greenwich Village. The magical torches flickered inside the sanctum's ancient stone walls, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts. Ethan hovered midair, a faint blue glow emanating from his spectral body. Across from him stood Dr. Strange, arms folded, his cloak of levitation curled like a serpent behind him. Wong stood to the side, brows furrowed and jaw tight. Ethan had just demonstrated the ghost arsenal for them, shifting spectral blades, phantom chains, and ethereal shields that materialized around him like living extensions of his soul. Your energy isn't magical, Strange muttered half to himself, and it's not exactly cosmic either. It's, something in between. Anomaly energy. That's why my spells only half register you. I didn't ask to be like this, Ethan said quietly. I just woke up this way, in Stark Tower. And now I'm being hunted by weird agents in black suits who can't be touched. Wong stepped forward. Those weren't SHIELD agents. I checked. They don't belong to any known organization. They phased through my ghost arsenal like I wasn't even there, Ethan added. They were different. Wrong. Strange turned toward the massive ancient window of the sanctum, looking out at the New York skyline. You said you were a Marvel fan before all this, right? Like, you knew about us before you ever came here. Ethan nodded. Yeah. In my world, Marvel was just a comic universe. Movies. Characters. Fiction. Strange turned slowly. Then let me blow your mind. The multiverse revelation. Strange conjured a glowing sphere that rotated in midair. Within it, countless Earths spun around like particles in a storm. Every story ever imagined exists somewhere. That's the multiverse. Each decision splits reality into new branches. But very rarely, something from outside, a reader or a fan, crosses over. You didn't get reincarnated. You were pulled. Ethan floated closer. Pulled by what? I don't know yet, but something with power beyond my comprehension. Strange looked grave. You're not a ghost. You're a tether, a bridge. And that means two things. You're a threat, and you're a key. Ethan felt a chill run down his ethereal spine. To what? Wong stepped in. To whatever's coming next. Meanwhile, unknown realm. Across dimensions in a black void filled with broken timelines and screaming echoes, a figure sat on a throne of fractured mirrors. A pale hand reached out, touching one mirror that showed Ethan speaking to Strange. The bridge is awakening, the figure whispered, and soon the walls will fall. Location, New York City rooftops. Ethan stood alone under the moonlight, thinking. A storm was coming, and it was far bigger than him. But he wasn't alone anymore. He looked down at his hands, shimmering with ghostlight, and summoned a new weapon, a chain spear fused with blue lightning. If he was the bridge between worlds, he'd make sure no one crossed it without facing him first. End of Chapter 6.